Great. So hello and welcome to our fall 2021 professional practice series. My name is Alonzo Pantoja and I use he, they pronouns. And I'm going to start out with a visual description of myself in case we have anyone with low vision participating tonight. I am a brown man with glasses, dark hair, in a home studio space. And then before I introduce our speakers, I want to respectfully acknowledge that the land we are occupying in Minneapolis is unceded territory, the ancestral homelands of the Dakota Anishinaabe peoples. Gathering, we pay our respects to the elders, both past and present. We acknowledge the grave harm that colonialism brought to these lands, in particular the erasure of both Indigenous and African identities, not only under slavery, but via racist laws that have segregated all people. We honor those who have lived and do live now at these intersections of identity and experience. And if you'd like to learn more about land acknowledgements, feel free to take a screenshot. I'll go ahead and wait a few seconds. Great. So this event is sponsored by the MCAD MFA program, which is a community of makers, thinkers, researchers, and creative professionals working in a mentor-based interdisciplinary environment. And again, if you want to learn more, you can visit mcad-mfa.com. Just a few notes. Your audio video will be muted for this webinar. If you experience any technical difficulties, email us at av_support@mcad.edu. Please feel free to leave any questions in the chat, and then we will select from these submissions after our speakers have presented. And a recording of this webinar will be made available to MCAD students after the event. And then I just want to get a few thank yous out of the way. So Kylie Van Note, Seth Dalside, Nikki Motokellum, and then Kelvin, who is our AV support for tonight's event. I also just want to give a little glimpse brief showing of our next professional practice event. So it's going to be a tattoo artist panel, November 10th. Same time, 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time, online free. And then there's that link on the bottom if you want to take a screenshot so that you can find out more details on where to register. Great. And so then for tonight, we have 3 panelists who will be sharing and discussing with us how they built their websites. But before they get started, I will go ahead and introduce them. Elena Stapleton is an interdisciplinary artist and educator with a focus in illustration and textiles, and currently works as the graduate admissions counselor at MCAD. Our second panelist, Roshan Ganu, is a multimedia narrative artist originally from Goa, India, now based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then lastly, Yao Jin is an illustrator and artist born in China. She creates works that bring smiles, comfort, and healing to her audience. And then now I will turn it over to them so we can hear a little bit about them and their websites. And then we'll follow it up by Q&A. So yeah, if Elena, if you wanna.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna share that. Does that look okay? Great. So, hello everyone. Again, my name's Elena. I'm gonna be talking about building my website, really what I was thinking, and some tips for getting started. So, I'm also gonna start again with a visual description of myself in case we have anyone with low vision participating tonight. So I'm a white woman with very short brown hair. I'm wearing a tie-dye crew neck sweatshirt and I'm sitting in my home. I'm also, like Alonzo said, an interdisciplinary artist and educator working in illustration and textiles. I'm an MCAD MFA alum. I graduated in 2018, and I'm also the graduate admissions counselor at MCAD. So how do I tell the world who I am and what I do? Where do I start? One of my favorite things about pursuing a life and career in the arts is that I get to build the life that I want. It's not a clear path that's set out for me, but that's also one of the most challenging things. And building a website is very similar. You have to think about what you want your website to do for you and then build what you want and need. So my first tip is that you should buy your domain name right now. Even if you have like other projects you work under or a business or brand name, I really recommend that you own your own name when it comes to like yourname.com. For example, there have been other periods in my career when I wish my website was like www.illustrationbyelena.com. But now I don't consider myself only an illustrator. So I'm really glad that I stuck with just elenastapleton.com. Maybe you already have a really recognizable handle that you use on social media. So it could be really nice for your domain name to match that. I still also recommend buying your name and having that link back to that site with the recognizable handle. And that way people that know you, the person, or people that know you on the internet can still find your work easily. You want to be really easily searchable. I don't really know anything about SEO or search engine optimization, and I'm not really concerned with learning how to be really well searchable in Google searches because I'm not running like a shop as my main gig. But I really suggest that you think about what domains you might want in the future because it doesn't hurt to buy them right now. You don't want to have to try and buy them off of someone else. I would say short and sweet and easy to remember is best. So that's my first big tip. And then after you have that, even if you don't know what you want your whole website to be, or if that building that whole thing seems really daunting, I would say at the very least, start with a landing page. List your contact info and maybe link to an Instagram. That's a really, really good start. Like have a place on the internet that people can go to find your contact info. If you can have a picture of you or a picture of your work, maybe have it say your name and a short description of what you do, and then make sure your email is really, really visible. People want to be able to contact you, so make sure that that's easy to find. The next thing is I use Squarespace. There are pros and cons, and it might not be right for you, but it's been the thing that's worked really well for me. At the risk of sounding like a podcast advertisement, I do like Squarespace. So it's not cheap. There are other cheaper options out there. And I don't use the shop function very much, so I might downgrade to a cheaper plan soon. So I'll kind of break down what my cost is. I pay $216 for my like whole website plan per year. And that is the like business plan, and it includes shop functionality and my domain name. In addition to that, and this is all within Squarespace, I also pay $72 a year for Google Workspace. So that gives me a custom email address. So I have like hello@elenastapleton.com. That's been a recent purchase. I like having that. It makes it feel a little bit more official, but also it's totally not necessary. I used my like @gmail.com email address for a very long time. And then the next thing I bought through Squarespace is also $60 a year to be able to send a certain number of newsletters. There are other newsletter subscription services that might have better prices, but I find the functionality of it being all within Squarespace really nice. So I like having everything in one place. I find it easy to use and customizable. I'm not a designer and I don't know how to code, but Squarespace makes me feel like I can do all of those things. So it works for me. it might not be the right choice for you. And then the next thing I want to talk about is kind of what I call the artist website hierarchy of needs. So if you're starting from square one, what do you start with and how can you build from there? And I think the most important thing to do is to have who you are, what you do, and your contact info. Like, very simple, but really that's the essential thing. Then next, I think you can start to flesh out how to hire you or how to buy your work. So here's my, you've got your contact info, but this is how I want you to contact me. This is what I need to hear from you if you want me to work for you. This is how I want to work together, having more descriptions about that, or having that shop functionality. And then next, maybe being more descriptive about what you do and how you do it. So showing process work, really talking about the work that you're making, adding in like an artist statement or motivations behind your work. And then the last thing I would say is free stuff or just like value adds. So I'll kind of walk you through my website in a little bit and show you what I mean by that, but like having anything that adds additional value to people when they come to your site. So this is some screenshots of my website, and I'm going to stop sharing this for a second so that I can kind of click through my website here. So this is my like main kind of landing page. I've got this logo that I use for a lot of different things. And I like to kind of have my who I am, what I do really large. That's sort of the biggest thing. And then there's some different clickable navigation off to the left. I've also like the site is really optimized for mobile, and on the website or like on your desktop, I like to show that you want to scroll down. And then I've got easily clickable to some different portfolios, and a function I really like having at the bottom here is like upcoming exhibitions and events. So this is something that I update all the time. And then I also link to email, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then just kind of showing different functionality. I have this like about page with a lot of details on it. So I sort of have this like basically like a CV, but not as detailed. I have like a larger description of myself and my background. I have links to like other projects I'm doing. I sort of have my Instagram linked in here, all different kinds of stuff, kind of saying I want to work together, how to get in touch with me. So I make sure my email address is like in a lot of different places. And then my portfolio. So I do a lot of different stuff. So I sort of have it broken down into different things, but my illustration portfolio, just have I like things that are square. So, not all the work kind of fits into that, but I kind of optimize how that looks. Yeah, I like the tiles. I like it to take up most of the screen. And then I also have one for like for quilting work. And then I also have a teaching portfolio. So I have like a teaching CV linked here. So that brings you to a document. I have a teaching philosophy linked. I have student work linked. So you can see some student work for like drawing, for kind of all the different things that I teach. And then I also have, this is kind of my free stuff. My value add is like downloadable resources. So I have like free zines and kind of teaching resources in there. And then I also have shop functionality right now. I don't use it very much, but that's that. And then I do want to show kind of a couple other examples of some websites that I like. So this is commercial illustrator Daniel Fishel. Again, I think that like tiling of the illustrations being the main part of the website it works really well. It's really basic. You can build that kind of basic form on a lot of different website platforms, but for illustrators, it's really successful. It gets the like images right out there first. And then you kind of have that very easy navigation at the top. And again, you see that this is Monique Amy, and they have a very similar type of setup. You'll see this from a lot of commercial illustrators. I also think it works nicely in this sort of setup, having the navigation off to the side, but you have these very easy categories. You have links to their social media, you have a place to join their newsletter, and you have examples of their work. And then here's an example of that same sort of setup, but it's a textile artist. And this is another example of a value add. So this is a comic artist, and they have like a resources and book recommendations. So a list they like to curate. And then I also wanted to add this example of a website of a designer and educator and writer. So again, they have that sort of like name, a description of who they are, and some easy navigation. And then this is just another example of that sort of big name, kind of images of their work, maybe some process images, and really easy navigation with links to their social media and to their email, really easily visible. So that's all I've got. Kind of my thoughts on how to start your website. Let me stop sharing here. Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, I love hearing when you were saying squares and then Squarespace, and I was like,
yeah,
connection.
yes.
Anyways, thank you. Yeah, Roshan, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Alonso, and thank you, Alina. I just love how thorough your presentation was in terms of your practice also as an illustrator. And I think a big part of having an online presence, especially through a website, is for me is first finding like what part of you do you want your audience to see as your internet imprint. So I'm going to go more through like a more autobiographical journey of how I decided what my online identity is going to be like. So you can listen to it like a story because I don't have any slides, but I will be sharing my my website or websites, which I developed over time. So I decided to be an artist a little later on, like not very long ago, like 3-4 years ago. And I built my website about 3 years ago when I joined art school. And I came to art school with a linguistic background. So I was in a completely different field. So my journey of discovering myself as an artist is very much my journey of building my online presence. So I started out with a very, I would say a basic website, which gave everyone a look into what I was up to literally in like every single practice I was doing. And you'll hear a lot of these parallels about how I changed as an artist versus how my online identity changed. So I started out as a comic artist, and I'm gonna share my screen. And I started out as a comic artist, and this was my website for a very long time. I built it on Wix. Like, don't even look at the URL because it's not active anymore. But this was my landing page for my website, which will give you a little peek into what I was thinking at the time. Everything is very autobiographical. Everything, I work with humor a lot. And at that time, I was exclusively working with comics and illustration. So a lot of it was my everyday comics that I would, make during my time here. And yeah, so that was kind of like my online identity only. I also have an Instagram, which I am very active on. But I'll come to Instagram a little later. Slowly I discovered that, okay, I like comics, I like illustration, but I also like making 3D work. And then my website I added this page of miniatures, which I was also making. But at the same time, I was still making comics. So it made sense for me to tell everyone everything that I'm working on through my website. And so I added miniatures. I still have these little comics going on. Then I started diving deeper into my 3D projects. So instead of just having icons, I started like showing more detailed processes of my work through video. So I would link my a page to on my website. I would add links to like video work I was doing. Hold on, that's not it. Then I started doing sound work and installation work as well. So and I kind of added that as well to my online portfolio. And you get the hang of it. Like I was kind of doing a lot of different things, and I was perpetually confused about what role is my website going to play in defining my identity to my target audience. And while I was navigating through that, I do have an active Instagram, which is where I would post more of my comics and illustrations and little projects I was doing. But this was a more immediate platform for me to share my work, while the website was still like, okay, projects and like maybe exhibitions or whatever, but like that was more like a longer, how do I put it, like a more a place for me to show larger projects, while Instagram was a more immediate way of engaging with my audience. So I did have this website for a long time, and let me pull that website out. I did have this website for a long time, and then I graduated, and I like the pandemic happened, and I was like, okay, now how can I make my website a place for me to not just show my identity, but like also to play around with what I want different different people to see. And slowly I realized that a website is actually a place where I want to only highlight one part of me. And with that in mind, I did have a show coming up this month, and this I'm thinking like somewhere around January. And I realized that I can actually apply for a grant which will help me build my own website for somebody who has so many things, so many identities as an artist. How do I showcase that? So I was like, okay, I don't think Wix or Squarespace was or me doing it by myself was was encapsulating everything I want to say. So I decided to apply for a grant to hire somebody to do the building of it and the graphic design of it and the maybe the coding as well of it. And I'm just going to do the storytelling part. And with that in mind, I applied for this grant. And it's interesting because this talk was planned before I received that grant. So I now have this website, which is in progress. And I have a team of two developers and one consultant. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that process as well, because I think that is a possibility that I think we can look more into, which is, so I'm from India, from a small state called Goa. And I realized that that was something that was featuring in my work a lot, which is place, space, sound, smell, memory. And I just wasn't able to, I wasn't able to put that in in one story. And so I built this, so I was looking for a consultant, and I was looking for somebody who was familiar with my background, which is Goa, India, South Asia, migrant, knows multiple languages, etc. And I reached out to this person who is now consulting with me. And he took on the mantle of like completely envisioning my whole all the narratives I was working on, the fine arts field. So he did some research. He's also lived in Goa. So he kind of really guided me. So I just gave him like a storyboard and he kind of took it from there. So this is the website. This is the first time I'm showing it. It's not fully ready yet. They actually made it live just for this presentation. So I then, from having all these like comics, illustration, etc., I really narrowed it down to who's going to see my website. And I decided that this time I'm only targeting curators, fellow artists, art galleries, and people in the fine arts world who are there to see my gallery work. And so this is the landing page. And then I also tried to think about how do I, like, a lot of my work is about storytelling. So like the scrolling of it was intentionally made sideways. And like each of when I pull up the menu, like I just decided to have 4 things. One is narratives about press and CV. And even within narratives, I would just have a little description, the name, and again, side scrolling. So really decided to keep it very simple. I use a lot of color in my work. So decided to play around with that. So yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, when I realized that who I want my target audience to be, it really streamlined my website into something very specific. And then I kept the rest of the stuff, like my other work, like comics, illustration, other small 3D work, animation, all of that to my Instagram, which is again linked to my website. So this is where, again, I connect with my audience at a more impersonal level. And what else did I want to say? Yeah, that's kind of it.
Great, thank you so much. Really glad that we got a little glimpse of this in progress website. It looks great so far. Can't wait to hear more.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then if you want to take it away.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, my name is Yao Jian. I am an illustrator and a storyteller. I'm happy to be here and talk about how I built my website and probably give a couple of helpful tips. And I'm going to start out with a visual description of me. I am a Chinese lady with dark brown hair. But recently, first time in my life, I dyed my hair with a little green and I'm sitting in my room. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Okay, cool. I'm gonna start talking with like why I need a website. I think an online portfolio is a way that I can present to people, especially the professionals in art field. And it's more straightforward and categorized than social media such as Instagram or Twitter. It's also a way that promotes my work. Before I actually built the website, I asked myself, do I need a website? I would really suggest thinking about it before you start spending money. You can think about which platform works better for you. Is Instagram, Twitter, Behance enough? That's why it's very important to think about who your audience are. So who are my audience? The most major part of them, I think it would be art director, publishers, because I'm also work on picture books and maybe editors or any professionals in creative area. And if you are doing freelancing or designing, this is a way to introduce yourself to your potential clients. And so in my case, I do participate in illustration contests. So usually an illustration contest, they will have their yearbook. People who read the yearbook and who wants to know you and interested in your work, they will click the link that you provide and maybe search your website. And there is also a case when I was in like an in-house illustrator interview. So a couple of art directors, they will open up my website and ask me to talk about my projects. So I'm really glad that like back that time I have my website. So you definitely need a nice domain name. And I think Lena already talked about it. So here's what I come up with the little Yaojian art. It's short and easy to remember and shows I probably do art. So I like it. And the second step is choose your website builders. I'm using Adobe Portfolio. There are also many other options. The reason why I choose it is because I think it's affordable, especially when you're out of school and you don't have access to Adobe suites. You still have access to Photoshop and Lightroom, and also the website builders for like $10 a month. So it's pretty affordable to me. And then build your website and put your work out there. Play around with the website builder you choose, and remember your website should always show your style and show who you are as an artist. So here is what my website looks like. Here is a screenshot, but I can show the website later. And consider adding a little fun. How about doing your logo, probably an illustrated one. So see here on the left top corner, I do a Illustrator logo of my website. And homepage is the most important page, though you have your categorized pages. And remember to put all your important projects on your homepage. So the first category is work. So here I have my picture book here and also illustration here. Those are I think it's the most important work. And there are also other categories like illustration, picture book, and this is a character series and also about and content. And remember to put your social media out there if you have them. And after you put all the stuff and design your website, you remember to review it and ask yourself, if you only have 30 seconds, would you be happy with what it presents? Is it you enough? And will your viewers know you enough in a short amount of time? Because a lot of artists and freelance illustrator tell me that usually art directors, they only give 30 seconds when they enter your website. Remember, people are busy. So you should present your best look at the very first site. And your website shows who you are. So in about and contact page, put a photo there if you like to, and write a short intro of you. not too long because people won't read it. Put your achievement there and tell people that you're good. And when you have a client list, remember to put them there for sure. And lastly, the most simplest step, hit the publish button. Be confident because you're going to change it little by little until you have a really good one. Oh, sorry for a typo here. Remember to update it when you have new work if you don't want to waste your money, and I'm sure you don't. And thank you. So I'm gonna share my website a bit. Yeah, so here is my homepage. So and those are the categories here. And the characters series that I'm working on right now. And also the about and contact page. And also social media buttons. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, yeah, for walking us through that. Looks great. And yeah, folks, if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and then I can go ahead and read them out loud. And then I'll just check and see the chat here. And then it looks like we have a question. Can each of you put in your URLs in the chat? Looks like Elena's already doing that. But yeah, I guess while that is happening, I'll start off with one question. And I think some of you sort of touched on this a little bit. And it's something that I personally find myself struggling in terms of website, what to put on it, how much information to put on it. So I guess my question is, how do you know what to include in a website and what to leave out? And is there a formula or something that you have as you're adding stuff to your website? What gets edited out versus what stays on? And that kind of goes for everyone, whoever wants to pick up that.
So I do have one piece of advice that I have gotten about what to include on your website and what to leave out is to think about what kind of work do you want to continue making. And that's what you should put more of on your website. So like maybe there's stuff that you have made in the past that like you were proud of, or it was made for like a client that was important to you, or that like looks good on your resume. But that's not the type of work you want to keep making. So maybe bury it a little bit. Maybe it's not like the first thing you can see, or maybe you just take it off altogether. I think that like thinking about your goals can also help you edit what you've got.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also one thing that really helped me was really thinking about like, and this is also advice that I got, like what is the kind of work you're looking for at a particular moment. A good thing is like Wix and Squarespace, like these kind of like platforms give you the option of like hiding parts of your page. So even if you have, you know, you don't have to delete anything. You can choose to like make something visible and hide something, like especially say, you know, you have the next 6 months that you're going to look for, I don't know, comic work or illustration work, editorial work. You can highlight that page and make that your landing page and like hide everything else. Or if you're doing more fine arts work, like gallery work, like maybe highlight exhibitions and work that is in space. So kind of really looking at what you're going to be doing for the next, say, 6 months to maybe even a year.
I think that's really good advice. And I also just want to reiterate like how much of a work in progress my website is at all times. I feel like every time I have to go like, oh, I'm going to go add this thing, or oh, I need to like add an event or something, then I find something else that I want to change, or like it's something I'm always tinkering with. And I think that's one of the reasons like I like using Squarespace, is because I can, like, I have all of that control. I can tinker with it whenever I want. But I also think like Russian, you're like asking for help, like outsourcing to somebody else and really sticking to your strengths. You were like, I'm the storyteller here. Like I'm gonna, you know, figure out the narrative and then have someone else build it. Like I think that's such a smart way to approach it as well.
Yeah, I would really agree with Elena and Roshan. And when I like update my website, I really make use of the hide function, because usually I change my website before I meet like different interviewers. Is that how you say it? For example, one time I met with publishers, so I will highlight my picture book project on my homepage, which is the work, that page. And one time I met with in-house illustrator company, then I will highlight my illustration projects. And I usually only put like finished work on my homepage. Yeah.
Yeah, you can also, I really like that, yeah, of like having these other pages like built and hidden that are specifically used for, yeah, like meeting with certain people, or like I kind of have that whole like teaching portfolio part of my website. Like that is where I sort of, it's almost like a storage space for, you know, when I teach something new, or like I have new student work that I like it's kind of a place I keep that, even if that's maybe not the most like visible part of my website. It is kind of a place to store this stuff to easily show when you need it.
Great, thank you. That's something I guess I hadn't thought about, is like the hiding function. That's very smart.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then it looks like we have a question from Ellen. Roshan, can you tell us about the grant you received to redo your website?
Yeah, so the grant is called the Next Step Fund, which is by the Metropolitan Regional Arts Council, MRAC. It happens once a year. I think applications open sometime in December. And like, even while thinking about applying to grants like this, I would still even not look at the grant, but look at what your need is. Instead of like applying for the grant, think about like what your need is, because there are two, three other organizations that have individual based grants. And for me, I had this show that opened in October in mind back in January or December. And I thought that like, I know in the next 8 months, but also in the next 2 years, I'm going to be using this exhibition to really like use the documentation from this exhibition to make my website, send it out to curators, galleries, etc. So I guess a bit of planning really goes a long way, and like thinking about, and also giving, I think giving myself space to change. I know like December of 1 year is too early to think about, you know, May or June of the next year, or even beyond that. But keeping that in mind, like thinking about what my need is right now, but also giving myself space to change, my art to change, my practice to change a lot. And I think that is where a grant can really help, because grants don't necessarily ask you for specifics, but they ask you for a broad idea of what you want. I want a website. Okay, if you want a website, why do you want it and how do you envision it? Like, so answering these broad questions really helped me while applying to that grant. Oh yeah, and also I think my biggest need was that, so I use like sensorial work, like sound, smell, light, which was something that I wasn't able to communicate from my Wix website or Squarespace website. So which is why my need actually was to, like Alina said, like outsourcing this work to people, and also communicating the story element. I cannot do everything. I cannot make the work and document it and put on the website and make the website look good and market myself. Like I found that to be like too much for me to do. So I thought a grant and a team can like sort that out.
I love what you said about like giving yourself that space to change. Like I saw, when you like, okay, your website was about comic work, and then now you're doing stuff that's like totally different. And I feel like I've been going through that same thing where like, yeah, I really built or like have looked at websites of commercial illustrators for forever. Like that's what I was building my website off of. That's like the functionality I was looking at. And that's just like not been a huge part of my practice. I've definitely shifted into being much more of an interdisciplinary maker and educator and things like that. So yeah, giving myself that, like, here's my basis and this works for me. And then I can build in whatever I need and whatever I'm doing as I change and my work changes. And yeah, the same with like, yeah, like clearly like commercial illustration, there's so many similars between like the design of our websites, but then we're able to make them work for us for whatever we need.
Yeah, and I just want to add one more thing, like from what you said, bouncing off of that like I would say don't let the platform limit you.
Yes.
Like I feel like for the longest time, I didn't think I could include sound and smell in my website. Like I used to limit myself to like illustrators or like comic artists because I thought that's the only thing that the platform would let me do. And I would judge myself that, oh, if it's not fitting in there, that's something I shouldn't do or cannot do. But like that's totally not true. Like you can like let them serve you and not you serve them. So
yeah. That's a really good point.
I like hearing that. Like, don't let a platform limit you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I would even branch that out into like, don't let your like what you think documentation should be limit you. Like as like I look at a lot of like textile artists and the way that they're thinking about documenting like quilts in different ways, for like the movement of a quilt or the tactile nature of that, and that maybe a video is going to be a better type of, or like a GIF is going to be a better type of documentation for you than that kind of very typical like gallery style documentation. So I think, yeah, think outside of the box. have fun with that documentation, and see what like would suit your work best.
Great. Yeah, so we have a few minutes left. So yeah, if folks are interested in asking questions again, feel free to place them in the chat. Otherwise, Roshan, it looks like you might have a question.
I actually have a question for Alina and Yao and Alonso, you as well, and actually anybody else. So I know like websites are definitely so important for artists, but how do you guys use something like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook as a website? Like, does that feature in your formal identity at all, or how are you guys navigating that?
That's such a good question, and I think I used to think of it a little bit more like a place to like build a brand, or a place to, yeah, like I wanted to be a little bit more formulaic about it, or it was more of a portfolio. But now I am really thinking of it more as that like experimental space. It's definitely a place that I want to show process is such a big part of my work. And so because Instagram is a great place to document and share process, it becomes a big part of my identity. And I also like tie in like my life and my work together. And so Instagram is a good place for me to do both of those things. It doesn't have to be like, I still sort of stick to a certain persona, or like there's things that I, maybe wouldn't say or share. But there is a little bit more freedom. And I think that, yeah, it's that space to like try different stuff. Whereas like maybe I know I'm going to get traffic there. I know I can get feedback, and I'm not going to get feedback necessarily from my website. So, yeah. How about you? Yeah, is that kind of, are you using it more like a portfolio?
Yeah, I think I'm using my website as a portfolio, and I feel like I'm more casual on Instagram, but actually I'm not really good at like writing, how do you say, like writing the text?
Like the captions?
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
captions. So I feel more free when I write introduction of my projects, when I edit my website. It's like a kind of like a blog to me. To be honest, I am more enjoy doing my website than Instagram.
Interesting. That's
Mm.
cool.
I guess that question came from, and that's so nice to see how each of you are using Instagram. I guess it's a mix of both. I do use it. I mean, I've gotten some work out of Instagram. Like people have messaged me on Instagram asking, the chappal thing I did with Mia, that definitely came out of Instagram. There are sometimes, curators are like looking for people on Instagram and their art. It is a little tricky though, because my Instagram is very different from my gallery work, but that's where I find it hard. But like, I feel like using features that these platforms have, like Reels is something that I've lately like started putting my video collages on, or like Kalina, you said, like it's a more experimental place where you can actually get immediate feedback and or see how people are responding to it in a more real-time way than waiting, for on a website to upload everything, like my first website. But
now that I think about it, when I say like get feedback, I guess I also sort of mean like community building. Like, I feel like I can network, or I learn about other people's work because of like my work getting shared, and somebody like follows me or likes that. And so there's that like networking and community building aspect that can happen from sharing stuff periodically and regularly, and trying new things and liking other people's stuff and commenting. And so I think I like that aspect of that experimenting and sharing on there versus a website feels more curated to me. I mean, my Instagram's obviously curated too, but different goals in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of kind of echo a little of what you all are saying, because I personally, like in the way Instagram, the way that I'm functioning with it right now is more of like in progress ideas in the state of things.
Yeah, I feel like I can share not fully fleshed out ideas on Instagram.
Yes.
That I would never do on my website. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's, and this is me like less judgment. I mean, not that no one's like necessarily judging. But like with my website, I feel like it needs to be polished, like ready to go. And I don't share any work in progress on there. So it tends to be a bit more static on that end, but I guess like it also depends on who our audience is, which I think you all touched on it greatly. So yeah. And as we get closer to time, does anyone have any final thoughts, either Elena, Roshan, or Yao? Or audience members?
Yeah, I think I just keep coming back to like the fact that it's really about making it work for you. Like if it is a super overwhelming process, outsource. like really like identify your need, or just like have it be very basic. Have it be like, these are the essentials and that's all I do. And that's the time I can spare and that's what I need. You know, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to take up all of your time and energy and shouldn't. Like that should not be the most important thing.
I should say that like in two of my interactions with galleries, like they have actually mentioned that some artists use Instagram as their official website. And it's really like, basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is there are no rules. It's what you decide you want to do. And like, again, coming back to like, and you have resources, which is the internet, and like platforms like social media or website, and like they should serve you like it, like out to in, and like yeah. So yeah, there are no rules, and like you make your own rules of your online identity.
Oh, I like that sentence so much.
Me too.
Well, on that note, thank you so much to all you three, Elena, Roshan, and Yao, for sharing tips that have been amazing. And also Roshan for showing us an in-progress website that you activated tonight to show, which I think is great. So I'm looking forward to see it fully realized.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, I think that's it. So thank you all for joining us. And then, yeah, have a good night.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Have
Yeah,
a
okay,
good night,
bye.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.